Okay, I got all the innards in the transmission. I'll show you that in a minute, but we're going to take this pump apart, inspect everything, make sure everything's good, clean it out, all that good stuff. Also got 2 tension rings right here I'm going to replace. Like I said earlier, this video may be a lot longer than I anticipated, but I'm just not showing too much in detail. I just wanted to stay busy on this and get this thing ready to go into the car at least. By the end of this long rainy weekend, at least have that done. Once I get it ready all together, that may motivate me to clean up some other parts. I got to check my U-joints. Every time you think you're almost done, you start thinking of all kinds of other things to check. I'm not going to rush it. If I make it in time to try this car out before the racing season ends, great. If not, no big deal. There we go. Clean rag right here somewhere. And the pump itself looks pretty good. A little bit of scratching. There's a little scratch right there, but there's really nothing we can do about it unless we replace it, and we're not going to. Like I said, this thing was working fine. We just mainly wanted to check the clutches and seals. But I may want to think about getting a new pump. You can resurface those too, so I think you can resurface this part right here. It'd have to be a very smooth finish though. So we'll see. Pump gears are looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. And we're going to replace this bushing and that seal. We'll do that. It's not too bad. We want to remember how them came out. When you put this in, you always want this taper towards the front of the transmission because your torque converter lines up, the slots on your torque converter lines up with these, and that taper kind of helps you push it in there. So you always got to remember that. And there's also a mark right there, and this one's not showing it. Yeah, next time I do this, I may want to think about getting some new pump gears and maybe a brand new pump, or resurfacing this along with some new pump gears. We'll see. There's a little nick right there. I don't think it hurts anything. Going to have to be good enough. It was working before. We'll just replace the seals, clean it up, blow it out, put it back in. Okay, a long time ago, I made a bushing driver kit. Actually, I was building a C4 at the time, but I'm not sure. I can't remember if the C4 front bushing is the same diameter as the C6, but it looks like this driver is perfect for that. We'll see. Yes, it is. That is perfect. And we'll go ahead and drive that new one in. See, we got a little oil groove here. It goes on the bottom. Let's see if it's got to go in a certain spot. Yeah, there's a little, see that oil hole there? Your oil groove, we'll drive it in this way. I'm going to lay a rag because that's surface there is going to be on that. Close that up. Probably should lay this on a piece of wood maybe, I don't know. But I think it'll be okay like it is. Yeah, we'll line up that oil groove right here with that. It should be okay. Clumsy. Chimpanzee at work again. And if you burr it up a little bit, which I shouldn't, this thing is too big to go inside, you can always deburr it. And we test fit our converter before we put it all together. It kind of, once you get it lined up, it goes in easier. Yeah, I'm going to have to deburr it. Well, make sure you get it in straight too. You want it flush with that. What I'll probably do is drive it a little bit past it and then get something bigger and drive it down flush, just so we know we got it good and flat or straight. It will go in there crooked. You gotta watch that. I just want to make sure my oil gauge is lined up. That's why I did it from this side. Sticking a little bit above it there, but not there. So do that. We're a little bit above it everywhere now. So I'll find something a little bigger. This piece of aluminum, which is a lot easier on it. And that gets it in there good and flat. There we go. A little bit of sandpaper. We'll deburr that. Alright, got the torque converter polished up. There was some rust on the part that is exposed, and that could have caused, see, this thing would leak if it was parked for a while, but as soon as you start it up it would quit. It feels like it fits okay. And I'm hoping that was it, because I don't feel any grooves wore into this snub or anything like that. Not sure what was causing that. But it was never an issue, because like I said, it would only drip after you shut it off. And it wasn't coming out of the pan or anything like that. It was definitely coming from the front seal or the pump seal, meaning the outer part of it. But we'll see if it does the same thing. I lived with it before, and I'll live with it again. Now I can put a front seal in. Got another driver in that kit I made. Like I said, it was for a C4, but a lot of these work with a C6 too. This is just the right size where it's a little bit bigger than the seal. Drive it down flush and flat. Feels good and flat. Check it on the converter. We'll have to do it over here. And it feels good. Okay, we got our gasket stuck on it. All the inners are in it. Probably can't see that. I've got the input shaft in. It only goes in one way. You can't get it in backwards. The splines are slightly different from torque converter end to the actual clutch hub end. So there's no worries of putting that in backwards. Let's see if we can get lucky enough to get this pump in, and it goes all the way in. I'm going to kind of eyeball up everything. Really, some all thread running through those couple pump bolt holes makes it easier too. Let's see, I need a light. And my glasses so I can see. Yeah, the holes are lined up pretty decent. Looks like it. I think it's all the way in already. It's usually a lot harder than that. Yeah, I need to line that up a little bit. But that was pretty easy compared to a lot of experiences I've had. Line up in bolt holes. I'm hoping. Let's see. I think these are the pump bolts right here. One of them is bigger than the rest because I had a stripped out thread a long time ago and opened it up to a 3/8. These are 5/16 threads. And once we get all these started, what I'm going to do is just going to draw a couple of them down because I want to make sure everything's lined up, nothing's going to bind. You don't want to just immediately crank them all down tight and force it all together. You want to make, because you can get thrust washers out of line and maybe one clutch isn't engaged with the spline. What I do is when I start to draw them bolts down, I make sure this thing turns and something's already feeling tight, or maybe I just need a little bit of leverage on this input shaft when I turn it the other way. Wrong vice grips. Put some vice grips on this so I can turn it easier. You're supposed to be able to turn it in both directions, and in the counterclockwise direction it's easy. Well, let's loosen up the band first. There we go. That's much better. But you just want to be able to turn it in both directions, because when you switch directions, the planetaries take over and it turns everything. It lets you know. No matter how clean you try to keep stuff, you're always finding dirt and grit in there. And I'm just going to snug this down until it feels like it bottoms out. And as I do that, I need another extension, but as I do that, notice I'm using a tiny little ratchet because I don't want to force anything. And it feels like it's going all the way in like it should. Yep, I got it to where I kind of snugged them down. That went together way too easy. It almost worries me. Which, I didn't film a lot of assembly of this because it's been so long since I've done it that I can't remember all the order everything goes. A lot of times you'll get it all the way together and realize you got to pull it, or most of it together, and realize you got to pull all of it back out because you forgot that you have to do something else first. Like on this, like the kick down and the shifter linkage, you got to get it in before all the guts come in. And I had to take all that back out because I forgot that. Stuff like that. But we're going to get everything torqued down. Then we'll check the end play. I got to look up the specs. Then we'll adjust the band. We've got to put the valve body on. Drive a rear seal and bushing in the tail shaft. And this thing is pretty much done. Put the servo in. There's a servo piston. Still got to clean it up. The cover, it's an aftermarket servo piston and cover. It's supposed to help for a firmer first to second shift. It's what applies to band. So let me get all the bolts in, torque that down, check the end play, and I'll show you what I found. Okay. Okay, now the pump's in, everything's torqued down, and we're going to check the in play. Now you got two different ways, two different things you got to check on in play. You got transmission in play, 8 42 thousandths, which I believe is the rear shaft. Now your turbine and stator in play, that's where you check the in play on your front shaft. And I believe the proper way is off of this shaft right here. We got it zeroed out. And what I do is, I just stick a, see there's a snap ring right about here that holds all the rear shaft assembly in. So what I should be able to do, let's move that and look at, we got, I'm able to force it about 17 thousandths, looks like. Which that changed a little bit there. It's probably less than 17. Yeah, we actually that time I got 12. But yeah, anyway, we got anywhere from 17 to 12 on that, so we're within specs. Now we got to set it up and check the rear. Okay, not the best way to mount the indicator. Really, I need my tail shaft housing bolted on, and I can have something mounted on the end here. But I don't have it on yet, and I don't want to put it on yet until I'm done. So, anyway, it's within specs. The specs are anyway a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 42 on this tail shaft. I got my magnetic base on the tail shaft, indicators up against a flat part of the case. As you can see, I've got 22 there. Since does have play, and as normally supposed to have play, kind of hard to keep that consistent. But it looks like I got about 30. It varies just because the shaft's a little wobbly there, and it's supposed to be that way. So all my end plays are good. Alright, now we got to adjust the band. And what you got here, you have a 4-sided screw here, 4-sided head on the screw. Screws in the side of the case. You got a locking nut. You can see the nut right there. It is a 13/16 6-point socket, what fits it. And you're supposed to tighten this stud after you back the nut away from the case so it don't bottom out. Tighten it up to 120 inch-pounds. You use a 3/8 12-point socket. We'll work on it. And you just tighten it down. Like I said, the wrench is already set at 120 inch-pounds. There it goes. And you back it off. The book calls for a turn and a half. I've heard people say anywhere from turn and a half. Some say 1 turn and 3/4. Some say 2 full turns. I just looked up on, I think, TCI's website, and they said 4 turns. I don't think so. Unless there's a later model with a fine thread. This is a coarse thread right here. I have seen some C4s that were that way. They had a fine thread instead of a coarse, and which means you got to turn it more to move it more. But we're going to go. See, I'm going to mark that real quick so that I don't lose track. Find my paint marker real quick. Put a little paint marker right about there. If I can see it, I hope. Give me a light over here so I can see what's going on. There. Can't see that black very well. Don't have any white paint markers that I can find right away, so we are going to go, okay, let's go a turn and a half. Remember that side right there. Keep my eye on it. Remember, it was at the top. There's about 1 full turn. Now, I should be able to do it by hand. turn the half. I'm going to go turn and 3/4. I found, at least on stock rebuild, it's hard to tell on this one, that if you got them too tight, they shift way too soft. But you also don't want. See, now I want to tighten this lock nut up. We'll make sure that doesn't move. And that's all there is to that. So we need to put valve body, servo's already in it. Need to put the valve body on it, rear cover, and this thing's ready to go back in the car. Okay, you can also, after you get everything together, you can also air check to make sure that your clutches are engaging. I think this one will do, no, that one, this one. Don't know if you can hear it, but I can. You can hear that piston applying, and I can hear this, the forward, which is back underneath it, which is up inside of this shell gear. You can hear it applying and releasing, and this will apply the band. Let you know that everything's releasing, or applying and releasing, not sticking and all that stuff. Kind of gives you a good idea that everything's working like it should, hopefully. So I'm going to get the rest of this together and I'll show you then.